what we've got is a co-main event of the evening that's extremely volatile. We've got a co-main event bout at 205 pounds, the light heavyweight division. We got the Devastator, Dominick Reyes, taking on Dustin the Hanyak Jacoby. And this is an interesting matchup because Dominick Reyes has had, unfortunately, a bit of a fall from grace in his UFC run. He's obviously a talented guy. You look at a guy like Dominick Reyes, and he arguably gave Jon Jones his hardest fight in the UFC. Alexander Gustafsson, another great name that comes to mind. But when you think about guys that might have beat Jon Jones, Thiago Santos, Dominick Reyes, Alex Gustafsson, those are like the three names that come to mind. Nobody else really had an argument for beating Jon Jones along the way. Maybe Daniel Cormier, a couple guys like myself, fans of Daniel Cormier, trying to throw his name in the mix. But really, Daniel wasn't able to get much on Jon besides a couple of rounds, over the course of their career. So I think that when you're looking at this fight, there's a lot of moving parts, right? First thing you got to talk about with the Dominick Reyes fight is maybe this guy's chin is completely gone. Some guys I respect have told me that they think his chin is just busted. He is on a 4-fight losing skid right now. And, I haven't bet on every Dominick Reyes fight along the way, but I have had some success. So when you look, I didn't have a bet on the Reyes and Jones fight at all. I left that one on the table. And I probably would have been very bitter and had a different opinion if I had bet on Dominick Reyes, right? But I thought it was close. I thought you could have scored it for either guy, but I would have edged it towards Dominick Reyes 3-2 in that fight against Jon Jones. I did think that by that third round, he had started to taper off a little bit in terms of his output. So now it's a 3-round fight. And last time out, I believe, if my memory serves, he was a pretty substantial favorite against Ryan Spann. So, yeah, he's about a -230 favorite, 70% against Ryan Spann last time out. And he got clipped on the chin, right? And if you look at Ryan Spann's career, I think Ryan Spann basically has, a lot of physicality. He has long-range tools. He's got power in his hands. He's got a guillotine, and that's about it, right? So if you don't get clipped early, you're probably going to beat him down the stretch. And it was an unfortunate go for him where Dominick Reyes got clipped by a jab and he just went down, right? It was a pretty stiff jab. I don't think it was like, he kind of just threw a little throwaway hand and just knocked him off his feet. But it was a jab nonetheless. And, I think in the 205-pound division, you give a little bit more leeway than if somebody's in the flyweight division getting knocked out by jabs. So I think that with this guy, Dominick Reyes, the real problem is, he's been put away in 3 straight fights. And the fights, they've been pretty brutal, right? The Ryan Spann knockout was definitely brutal. The Jiří Procházka spinning elbow was sickening. I bet Dominick Reyes there. I think he was +120. And I honestly don't know if I made a bad bet there, right? Like I've been a huge Jiří proponent, over the years. I really like Jiří. And that was the only time I was really looking to fade Jiří. And it was just because I'm like, man, this guy Dominick Reyes is a very quality fighter. And his last loss was to Jan Blachowicz at the time. And Jan Blachowicz didn't get any respect, but he took my money when Adesanya fought, right? And I thought that was super impressive. And so when I saw this guy was big plus money against, a guy like Reyes, I was like, I got to take the chance here because Reyes is a good fighter, but he's coming in a classic letdown spot, right? When you're thinking like I should be the champ, I lost close to the champ. That's just a classic letdown spot in combat sports coming off that title fight. And some guys buck that trend, right? Sean Strickland was able to go do that over the weekend. But you see that this guy, Dominick Reyes, he went in there. He had a lot of confidence, but the body kicks were sickening from Jan Blachowicz. He was wearing disgusting bruises. He's got that long torso. It's a big target, right? There's just a lot of room to hit Dominick Reyes on his body, and he's got to be very disciplined and careful in order to deal with that. I remember in his last fight, he said there was a lot of work put in on the defensive end in the fighting. He wants to make sure, hey, I'm a little more elusive. I have a little bit better movement. But he really struggled, and so that does worry me. But I think to myself, you look at the 3-fight losing skid and Jiří Procházka, there was some reason to believe that that was a very close fight that could have went either way, because you watch it back and Yuri gets knocked out by an up kick at one point in that fight by his own admission. He's basically said, hey, I went out there. He got put in a submission attempt as well. And it looked like he was in really dire straits. And then he was able to get the finish. So you want to say, like, hey, hats off to Yuri. He just did the exact same thing in terms of melting somebody down the stretch that, we saw against Dominick Reyes. He did that to Alexander Rakic as well. So Yuri is just good at melting people after taking a whooping, right? If you guys have watched his career in Ryzen, it wasn't just in the UFC. He's made a career of doing this where people hurt him bad or they try and submit him and they waste a lot of energy, and then Yuri finds a way to finish them late. So that's the magic of Yuri. But losing that fight, getting one punched, by a big, powerful guy like Spann, it definitely tells me that there's been some problems, for Ryan Spann, for Dominick Reyes in terms of taking power shots. I think it's a good thing that the Ulberg fight got canceled. Ulberg canceled it the first time that they were scheduled. Then the second time Dominick Reyes canceled it. I think that was good. Bad matchup for him. Now, it's not an easy matchup here, certainly, against the Hanyak, Dustin Jacoby. But Dustin Jacoby is 19-8-1 as a professional mixed martial artist. He's 7-5-1 in the UFC. And his peaks have not been as high as a guy like Dominick Reyes, right? Obviously, Dominick Reyes, the peaks are beating top guys, beating Chris Weidman, a UFC champion, fighting tooth and nail with John Jones. Like, he's fought with some of New York's best and done quite well. So he's got my respect for sure. But then on the other side here, you got a guy in Dustin Jacoby. Facts are facts. He's 1-3 in his last 4 fights. So he's kind of in the same boat where he's been struggling. But the difference is his chin hasn't looked completely gone. He got hurt badly by Alonzo Menifield on multiple occasions, but he was able to survive those shots. I will definitely answer questions from the chat. I appreciate everybody who's rocking with us live in the chat. So I see that you guys are talking, but I had a lot to say about these top 2 fights. I wanted to make sure I get it off my chest, but I will give a scroll and answer questions from the chat as well. So stay tuned for that. But what we got here is a guy in Dustin Jacoby who's losing to quality fighters, but Khalil Roundtree, Azamat Murzakanov, Alonzo Menifield, it's decreasing, right, in like the level of UFC acumen, because you have a guy in Khalil Roundtree who is definitely, emerged as a top, 10 fighter in the division, right? But Khalil still has his own problems. It was a kickboxer versus a kickboxer, and he loses, right? And so Dustin Jacoby, the known kickboxer, the guy who's from Glory, done all these nice things, fought Poatan, he lost that fight in the kickboxing, just like we saw with our guy, Cesar Almeida. Just because you got the better kickboxing pedigree doesn't mean you're always going to win a striking fight in MMA. So it's just something to think about. But then Azamat Murzakanov, right, the professional, goes out there, and Azamat Murzakanov can mix it up, but he's a pretty low volume guy, and he picks his shots. He can go out there and wrestle a little bit, but he basically just used his well-rounded approach, gets the win there against Dustin Jacoby. Then you look at the Kennedy and Nzechukwu fight. Kennedy's chin is like the weirdest thing to cap in MMA, just like Dustin Jacoby's power. It comes and goes like the wind. You see Alonzo Menifield. Guys, Alonzo Menifield just fought the worst game plan you've ever seen in your entire life in his last fight, right? The guy is very hit and miss. I believe, let me just go back and check because I don't want to speak out of turn. Alonzo Menifield. This is true. Alonzo Menifield lost a unanimous decision to William Knight in 2021 from legitimately not doing anything, just like allowing the fight to just pass him by. So I think that Alonzo Menifield, very hit and miss, not a great fighter, and he was able to land big shots twice in the fight, hurt Jacoby, and get the win. So you've had the last 15 minutes against Dustin Jacoby to beat him in these recent fights, but he's 0-3 in his last 3 decisions. Last time he won a decision was against Michal Lord Oleksiejczuk. I believe that's the only decision loss of Oleksiejczuk's career. I believe every other loss in his career was a finish. And that is true. He has 7 losses inside the distance. His only loss by decision was against Dustin Jacoby. So I think Dustin Jacoby's power is a touch overstated. He knocked out Da-Un Jung. Impressive, right? Nice shot there. I was surprised by that. I was on Da-Un Jung. Then you watch it, Kennedy and Nzechukwu, and lands a big shot there. I thought that was a slightly premature stoppage. Then you look at the Darren Stewart fight. Darren Stewart is a 185-pound fighter. No, had no business taking fights at 205, in my humble opinion. Then the Ion Cutelaba fight. I mean, he got 10-8'd in round 1. He was getting hurt badly. I thought that, that fight could have been stopped by some referees, right? He did a good job responding. He keeps moving. He's a tough bastard, but he can get hurt. He can get clipped for sure. And he also got out wrestled in that fight. He was getting taken down multiple times, and he was able to work his way back up to his feet. Like I said, tough guy, ornery prick, hard to get out of there. But then his other knockout win is against Justin Ledet. He got a unanimous decision win against Maxime Grishin. And if my memory serves, Maxime Grishin hurt him really bad in that fight too. I'm trying to think if he's gotten hurt in any of the other fights. But again, just talking about the power, he didn't finish Michal Oleksiejczuk, who's eminently finishable in his losses. He didn't finish John Alon, who is also not a very sound fighter. Did not finish Ion Cutelaba, who gets finished in most of his losses. And didn't finish Ty Flores on Contender Series. Didn't finish Cody East on the regional scene. So, yeah, I just think of him as a pretty average guy. And I don't think of him as the most dangerous striker going. Now, that being said, Dominick Reyes, can he get knocked out in this fight? I mean, if his chin is gone, his chin is gone, right? He's 34 years of age. So I think there's some reason for optimism. When you look at the Dominick Reyes side of things, he had a very scary health condition earlier this year, right? So that was a little bit nerve-wracking, but he says he's got a clean bill of health. He says that, he'd been back to the doctor and everything. He's all good. He's in great shape. He's excited and ready to compete. So on a 4-fight losing skid, he's going to be the bigger guy here, got about an inch of height, got about an inch of reach. All the anthropomorphics are going his way. He's 2 years younger as well. If you look at the quality of competition, he's fought all ranked guys, all quality fighters. And I think that he's looked, all right throughout. I think the chin has looked concerning, right? But the Blachowicz fight went about as I expected it. The Yuri fight, I thought it was about a -110 pick 'em either way. As far as I'm concerned, they went back and forth. They went to war. Horrible, brutal knockout, but it's the nature of 205 pounds, right? You get clipped with some of these shots at 205, you might just go to sleep. Yuri Prohaska, we saw that, right? Anybody who fights Alex Pereira, we've seen that. Doesn't matter if they're the top guy. It doesn't matter if they're a former champ. All these guys have been biting the dust, getting finished, except Jan Blachowicz, the GOAT. So when you look, this guy, Dominick Reyes, he's a guy that I think still has something to give. If you look, he's been fighting for a long time. And way back in the day, he was submitting guys on the regional scene, back on the amateurs in California. And I think that when you look at a guy like Dominick Reyes, would it be wise to go out there and just continue to strike and trade with these guys like crazy? Maybe it wouldn't be, but would it be a horrible idea for this guy to try and mix up his game a little bit, get into the clinch, grab a hold of these guys, try and work them to the ground, and leverage the fact that some jiu-jitsu and you're a big, long guy, and most of these guys at light heavyweight don't know how to grapple their way out of a paper bag. So for me, if I'm in his corner, if I'm coaching him, that's what I'm telling him to do here, right? And he's been working with guys like Curtis Blades, Wellington Turman, Glover Teixeira. He's kind of went around and got different looks over the years, in these last couple of years, trying to get a little bit better. And I think he's been training in New Mexico, feeling good. And I just think that we're going to see Dominick Reyes, whatever he's got left to give, it's all here, right? If he loses this fight, I would assume he's probably cut, if not retires, for his health and safety. So if you guys are comfortable, with the prospect that this guy could retire after the fight, if things go sideways, I think you're kind of just going to get, kind of like a Dustin Poirier, somebody who's willing to go out there and pour out the jug, find out exactly what they have left. The difference is you got Dustin Jacoby across from you here, not Islam Makhachev. And that's why the price is a little bit shorter, but that's also why maybe there's a little bit more opportunity to see him win. So I think that this is a fun fight. I think it's an interesting scrap. I think if Dustin Jacoby wins this fight in impressive fashion, he's going to have to go hit that KO1 button, right? Plus 370, something like that. You could find Jacoby by KO plus 125. You could find the under in this fight. If we take a look at the screen here from our friends at Fight Numbers, again, info down in the description, promo code Liam. But looking over at fight numbers, let's see if we can find Dustin Jacoby. Best available price is -219 over on Betfair, plus 203 on, I think this is Bovada, for Dominick Reyes. So you're seeing, pretty close line there in terms of the over-under, -140 to the under 2.5 rounds. So if you think Dominick Reyes has no chin and the fight's going to end, I mean, that seems like pretty reasonable chalk, right? -140 to the under 2.5. So a couple different ways you could look to play this fight. But for me, I think there's a lot of interesting things being said in the chat. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to circle back to the chat. Want to thank everybody for being here. We're going to go to the first people to comment. Our boys over at Chronic Combat Conversations. Nice and early show. You know it, brother. Dixon's been here since the beginning. We appreciate it. Liam Picks Fights in the Morning, new radio show idea. I appreciate you, Call of Duty Vlogs. Thank you for the support. Bo Jackson with his cup of coffee. Joe Midas with the Yizzo. Appreciate you all being here. Thank you guys so much. Cowboy says I fell back asleep. Not quite. Not quite. Aussie accused me of falling asleep during my own breakdowns. Never that. But I appreciate you guys all for being here. We got Colostrum in the building, says Eduardo Mora is a lock. No locks in life, but exciting matchup. I can't wait to talk about that one on the prelims. We're going to work our way down. Liam, you think Imavov might try and sneak in a takedown or two? I absolutely do think he's going to try and wrestle a little bit. I would be surprised if he didn't. Shout out to Jimbo, says Jersey is in the house. Dixon says Imavov rolls well with shots. I agree with that also. We've got Sounds in the chat. Says, Liam, how are we feeling about black fighters at the KFC Center? #narrative. My brother, I have no idea. I haven't thought about that in terms of narrative. I just wish everybody well. I hope they have a great event. I think that, like I mentioned before, Jerry Cannonier has explosive knockout power. He's got an ability to win this fight, but I do lean towards Imavov overall in that fight. So that's the way I'm seeing it. But if we're going to go through and take every fight one by one on a case-by-case basis, and then you could add up your own scores at the end if that suits your fancy. Karen Bari says, Liam is back. Appreciate you, Karen. Shout out to Moyes as well. The whole dome in the building. We got our guy Mushroom, says, what's up to the chat? Appreciate you being here, brother. Appreciate everybody who is rocking with us. Always make friends in the comments, guys. Make friends in the chat. Appreciate you guys for the support. Dennis Badier says, good morning or good afternoon, Liam, from Catalunya. A lot of people disrespecting Jared. Hey, brother, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to do that. I'd rather lean towards that, fight not to go the distance, not have to pick a side, right? Question, Liam, which fighter has a better chance to land over 100 significant strikes? I assume you mean in the main event. I would probably say Jerry Cannonier if the fight is to go 5 rounds, but that is an interesting proposition, certainly. How are we feeling about the ends in split? Middleweight's been going to decision. I don't hate that as a look, certainly. Happy birthday, brother. I just hit the dirty 30 last month. Shout out to you, Alex. Liam getting the VIP lap dance. No, sir. Appreciate you. And then we got my guy Call of Duty Vlog says Reyes comeback starts Saturday. Shout out. Evan Kroll says every day is this man's birthday. That's how we live over here. We try to make it every day a good one. Shout out to Alex, says Reyes by sub. It's even higher if you shop across the market. So definitely you could be onto something there. He has a rear naked choke in the UFC, a guillotine on his record. Absolutely. Great points there. Cody says, is there a reason you don't upload to Spotify anymore? Spotify's been going through some changes with their Spotify for podcasters program or whatever. So it's just been a little bit more of a hassle for me. I'm not very technical savvy, as you guys know. So I'm trying to get a little bit better with that. If you guys are fired up about the podcast version of this show, please go ahead and let me know in the comments. I just felt like there was a lot more traction on the YouTube show. So that's been my priority. I try and put it out on big shows, pay-per-view weeks and stuff. I try, but I'm always just prioritizing the product on YouTube because that's where more people consume the show. But if people are getting on my case, I will definitely start putting up the podcast again. It's been a little bit of a hassle for me, but that's the only reason, Cody, that it hasn't been there is there's been some changes with the program I used to upload it, and I'm not that tech savvy. Shout out to Trackbed, says Liam Picks Fights. You know that, brother, each and every week. Thank you for being here. And then we got our guy, Nate, very sharp guy in the chat, constantly here. Appreciate your support, brother. Says Dustin isn't a kickboxer. I don't know why everyone makes that a huge point. Well, he is a kickboxer. He's just an all right kickboxer, right? He's not a world-class guy. There's definitely better quality kickboxers. Even Cesar Almeida is a more proven kickboxer, in my humble opinion. Anyone see the interview with Dustin after the Osmond fight saying he thinks he's closer to the title than ever? I don't think Jacoby knows how to use his size advantage straight up. I tend to agree. My guy, MMA Ricky, says, yo, Liam, thanks for helping me kill time at work. Appreciate you, brother. Gone with the chin. I do think the chin is pretty spent for Dom Reyes. So that's the danger factor here. But you're getting him this fight at 30%. Last fight, you're getting him at 70% in arguably a tougher stylistic matchup in terms of a guy with power that could also win by submission. Be pretty surprised if Jacoby wins by submission. So, yeah, interesting spot, though. Liam with the coffee. Shout out to my guy, Cole. We got the coffee right here. And we're going iced coffee today like straight savages. Appreciate everybody for rocking with us. Everyone smash that like button like my guy Dixon says. If you guys don't mind, quick show notes. Go ahead and drop a like on the show, guys. Get subscribed to the channel. And if you want to support, easiest way to do it, go over and support our friends at Fight Numbers. They're friends of the show, supporting us. And like I said, they'll hook you up if you use my promo code Liam, 30% off that first month.